What's up, y'all? Philly Insider here, Hunter and Drew. Pretty big debut yesterday from Abel. Wanted to come on here and talk about that. We'll also talk about the 80-game suspension and postseason suspension for Jose Alvarado, which was definitely tough news to hear if you're a Phillies fan. We'll talk a little bit about the team in general, too. But those are really the big topics to hit. Drew, how we doing today, and how we feeling after yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing better today definitely than I was at 11 a.m. yesterday whenever we got that news. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it definitely sucks to lose Alvarado, obviously. But Mick Abel, he was kind of like the bright spot, obviously, of yesterday, and yeah, he was phenomenal, man. I really don't know what else there is to say about his outing. I mean, he had very good fastball command, which is one of the big things he struggled with last year. And early in this year, he has been much, much better. Like his first, I think, 8 starts in AAA, he's been much better with walks. Like last year, I think he's had like a third of the walks in the walk rate that he's had last year. So, I mean, if he can continue what he did yesterday and at the beginning of the season, he's going to be back very, very soon. Like not very far down the line because, starting pitching injuries, they happen, especially with, like Luzardo's had a big history, Ranger has a big history, and Sanchez had that worry earlier this season. So you never know what's going to happen, and you definitely need guys like Abel to be able to back them up.
Absolutely. I mean, he was incredible yesterday. I know it is the Pirates lineup, and that definitely played somewhat of a factor, obviously. I don't want to discount that, but I also don't think it should be used to discount what we saw from Abel either. Like, I think the stuff that we saw from him yesterday plays against a lot of teams in the league. Like you said, his fastball was great yesterday. I mean, he was hitting 98, 99. That was a great thing to see. Obviously, we know he can pump it, but to see him do that in his first big league start, man. I mean, I'm sure the adrenaline was going, and that was probably part of it. A lot of his family was there. I think he had like 50 people in attendance who knew him, which was really cool. But the fastball was great. Obviously, he kind of works the two-seamer in off of that too. I thought his curveball was as advertised as well. I mean, obviously, that is his go-to breaking pitch. It's his go-to non-fastball. I mean, that was a great pitch. He obviously got O'Neal Cruz to swing right over it on the first at bat of the game, which was really cool to see. I mean, that's a legit major league hitter who he kind of made look silly on 4 pitches and used the waist pitch up high and then got him down low with the curveball. So he was awesome yesterday. I think there's a lot you could say about his start. Like you said, no walks. That is incredible. I mean, that's what you want to see from him. Not only was he cutting his walk rate down tremendously in the minors, but then he comes up here and doesn't walk a single batter in that game. He has the stuff to go challenge hitters, and he needs to do that rather than give out free passes. So I'm very happy with how things panned out yesterday, and I don't think they could have gone better, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he should be absolutely brimming with confidence when he goes back down to AAA and pitches this week. I mean, that he'll be feeling like he's on fire walking out there on the mound the next time he goes. So, yeah, I think this is a big building block for him, especially like confidence-wise, mentally, because what he went through last year, there's no fun in that. I mean, he was terrible last year, to say it lightly. I mean, he fell out of the top 100 prospects pretty much on every list. I don't think he's on any of them anymore.
No,
but
he's not.
I bet some of those guys are feeling a little bit foolish now. He's kind of proven the haters wrong, and I don't know if he heard all the noise, but if he did, he was glad to shut everybody up, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Like you said, this was a guy, and we will get to the comments here. I see our guys, Chris and Sir Philly in there. So thank you guys, loyal supporters, loyal Discord chat guys too. So we definitely appreciate those guys. But majority of the fan base, the Phillies fan base, was out on him, I think, after last year. And I know you, me, and a couple of our friends talked about it in group chats and stuff. Like, I know we weren't very happy, but we all acknowledged he was still 23 years old going into this year. And there was still time for him to figure it out. He was in AAA at 22. I mean, he's one of the younger AAA pitchers around right now. So I think with that, it was just you had to hope that this year he could turn it around. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I wasn't expecting him to be bad in AAA, but I wasn't getting my hopes up that he was going to figure it out. He's done that and more. He's been really, really strong in AAA so far. He's going deeper into games too. So that was just to see what he did yesterday. I mean, he gets one opportunity. He knows he's getting sent down after the game, and he doesn't waste it. And I think it was really valuable for him. Like, obviously, he's worked with Cotham a little bit before, but to be able to work on a game plan with him and to think about those things in the middle of the game and to review things with Cotham after each inning. Like that is super, super important for him to get that experience. And obviously, would it have been nice for him to stick around here for a couple more starts? Sure. I'm sure they kind of want to keep him on a schedule. I think my idea was like, and I was debating with Chris in the Discord about this earlier today. I think Chris, obviously not the biggest Dave Dombrowski fan. He was hoping that Abel was going to stick around. And obviously, like Sir Philly said, it's a shame he got sent down. Ty is in his spot. I think a couple ways you could go with that. Like me personally, I'm just not worried about it because that happens sometimes with big league ball clubs. Like sometimes there's just not room to keep guys around. Would it be nice to have him stick around for another start or two? Yeah, I'm imagining they don't think Nola's going to be out for very long. Seemed like interesting timing on his injury too. Like I'm not saying it wasn't a real injury, but Nola obviously wasn't pitching well, which we can talk about. But I just think you want to keep Abel on a schedule. He's a young guy. He's already at like 46 innings. I think with yesterday, he's over 50 innings for the year. His max innings in a minor league season is 113. So you do want to watch that. Obviously, with him throwing as fast as he does, you got to be careful. And these guys are pitching every fifth day in the minor leagues. They're not throwing usually every fourth. So I just think you got to be careful with him. If you wanted to keep him up, I guess the option would have been you have Taiwan still make the start on, I think he's starting Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, and then you bump Abel that back a day. Kind of screws up the rotation a little bit. I just think there's things there where it just made sense to send him back down. But I like you said, there's going to be opportunities. Like our guys are not always healthy. You have to be careful with Luzardo. And obviously Sanchez had a little bit of forearm stuff earlier this year, and Suarez isn't always the healthiest. So there could be another opportunity that presents itself where he could be a valuable piece. And I think he could get another opportunity. But like I said, I was talking to Chris about that. So I'm curious about your thoughts about him still getting sent down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the side of I wish he didn't, because Taijuan Walker's been, I would say, good to very good out of the bullpen. I mean, he's been more than serviceable. I mean, I think he's given up a couple runs here and there, but overall, it's been quite a success what Taiwan's done so far this year, and most of it's been out of the bullpen. I think he's had 2 starts or something like that, but he's been much better than he was last year, and I feel like messing with that is kind of like, looking for disaster, but I don't know. Obviously they know better than we do. And I trust them. But at the end of the day, it sucks to see somebody come up, throw 6 scoreless and then be like, see you later,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At the very least, he might not get another opportunity anytime soon. You never know with injuries and whatever's going to happen. But at the very least, he is more valuable in a trade now than he was. Everybody's seen what he can do. He's been better this year. So he was already on the uptick. But I think it's definitely good as far as trade value goes. And, obviously the Phillies are in the trade market. There ain't no secrets about that. But yeah,
sure.
I think there's nothing that you can do about it at this point. They obviously sent him down. They had that decision made. So you just got to kind of live with it and trust the process, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Hopefully not the Sixers process, but we'll trust our own process. So, that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about him as a trade piece too, and like what that could look like versus like, should they just kind of keep him around and then see what happens next year? Because who knows, like you could be sitting here next year and then like a guy or two goes down and you're like, man, I wish Abel was here right now. But at the same time, like you said, he is probably the most valuable trade asset they have right now, just because they're probably not going to deal from what has been their top 5 prospects. I would think Abel has probably creeped into that. If he's not in it, he's in that conversation now again, obviously, after what he's done so far and what he did yesterday. That being said, like you talked about, he could definitely net them some value at the deadline. And I think a lot of people are like, well, why would you just give him up for a relief pitcher? Like, for one, like I think because of what he's done so far, like I think you're getting probably a little more than just a good relief pitcher, if I'm being honest. And you could get just a relief pitcher, but it could be an even better relief pitcher with control, like years of control that you didn't expect to get. So I'm not saying they should do that or that's exactly how they should go about it, but they would be silly not to listen to offers on him. I mean, he is definitely an attractive piece for a number of teams, and it could definitely suck seeing him go somewhere else and just deal. Like that's a very real possibility depending on what organization he lands with. But even if he doesn't land with a good one, he has the weapons to go do what he needs to do. So I'm curious what you kind of think. Like I am definitely middle of the road where like, it might be a cop out, but I just think like they 100% should listen to offers on him. They should 100% offer him in certain deals, but they also don't have to trade him right now. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. It's kind of a cop out stance, but yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad thing to have rotation depth like that. I mean, not a lot of teams can just pull their 7th or 8th best guy out of the minor leagues and have him come up and, throw 6 scoreless. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. They're going to do what they're going to do. I'm assuming that he's going to be one of the main guys they're trying to get rid of at the deadline because they're not going to want to deal with Painter. They're not going to want to deal Miller. Crawford, I don't know what they want to do with him at this point. They might think he's good. They might not. I have no idea. But
yeah, I don't think anyone does. I don't think they know what they think of him right now.
Yeah, I think he's probably like outside the top 5 as far as their top prospects go at this point. But yeah, I mean he's working his way back up there, and he's still a prospect. So I don't know. I think he has a lot of potential. Obviously, we saw it yesterday. Everybody knows what kind of potential he had whenever he was drafted. Everybody was very high on him for a few years there, and he's still young, like you said earlier. So I don't know. It's a shame that he's kind of stuck in the minor leagues because our rotation's so good. But hey, it's never a bad thing to have depth.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be tough to dethrone Eduardo Tait and Arun Escobar in that prospect list, especially as long as they're down in single A. Their numbers aren't going down anytime soon. So obviously they're going to kind of maintain those spots. And I know I did a short video on Moises Chassé the other day too, who was in that top 5 prospect list for a number of different websites and all that, but unfortunately he needs Tommy John. Don't really, again, know the full story there. Hopefully we get the full story at some point, but like that sucks. Because regardless of what the story is, now he's done for at least like a year and a half. That sucks.
Yeah, you figure he's probably going to miss all of next year. I mean, he might pitch in the fall league or something at some point, but it's a shame because he was very, very exciting. He was on a lot of people's radars, and obviously you were a big believer, and I was as well. I mean, I was a little more quiet about it, but it sucks to see anybody get hurt. It doesn't matter who they play for or whatever, but he's got massive potential. So it'll be interesting to see how he is when he comes back. And I think it might be as a reliever, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, very possible. Very possible. And I did want to ask that. We talked about Mick Abel's trade value and all that, but I did also want to ask you about that. Obviously, moving a guy to the bullpen isn't the easiest thing to do, and it's not one-to-one. Like, I think I'm trying to think of who's done it before. There's been a couple playoff teams who have done it with young pitchers, and then they're starters the rest of their career. People had that idea with Painter. Like, I thought about that. I'm not going to act like I wasn't thinking about that either. Like, I was kind of on that train last year with Painter, like thinking about him as a potential bullpen option for a number of reasons. It's not smart because of his Tommy John and like all that stuff. Like, you got to keep him on a schedule. And I think kind of the same with Abel, but you do kind of have to keep an eye on his innings. So I'm just curious what you would think of that too, because I do think he has the stuff to play in the bullpen. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think they're going to give a lot of other guys opportunities, but it's definitely a fun idea in theory. I just think it's definitely not simple. But if they think it's something they could do, definitely could be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely has the stuff. No, there's no question about that. Right. I think if you put him in the bullpen, his velocity is even going to tick up a little bit, and he's going to be throwing probably 100 mile an hour if he's only going one inning. But I don't know. It just doesn't really make any sense to me because he's been as good as he's been, and he has much more value as a starting pitcher in trades or just to the team in general. And I think they have like the prospect pool to go get a reliever versus having to ruin one of your good prospects and make him a reliever instead of a starter. So I don't think they should do it. And I'd rather see them just deal him for a really good reliever or deal one of their, lesser prospects for a reliever that's something like Tanner Banks. Tanner Banks has been fine as a Philly. I mean, he's not pitching in high leverage or anything, but if you can get somebody like that to fill a void for a little while here while we're in the middle of the season and then go get a better guy at the deadline, that's fine with me.
Sure. And I think guys like Otto Kemp and Gabriel Rincones, I think Rincones has cooled off quite a bit, but obviously those are still known as like guys who are seen as good potential major league hitters. I'm not the biggest believer in either of them, to be honest. Like, I don't think they're bad. I mean, wouldn't be hitting as well as they are if they were bad. But
Yeah.
I just don't know like what their ceiling really is, and like if they're great major league hitters or like if they would really make sense here, honestly. So I'm not the biggest believers in them. That being said, like if you deal those two guys, like obviously Facebook groups are probably going to be up in arms about that one. But that being said, you could probably get like a number 3 or 4 in your bullpen with that,
Yeah.
like with just that package right there. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I know the market's not necessarily going to be the best, but like they dealt Aldegari and George Klassen last year for Carlos Estevez, and like obviously like it didn't work out like 100%, but Estevez was pretty good for them down the stretch of the regular season. He was like their 4th option probably. Yeah, I know he gives up the home run to Lindor. Shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with, and he probably shouldn't have been in that situation in the ball game. That's a whole other conversation, but like that's the type of guy you could get to kind of hold down the fort a little bit, and then maybe like you said, you get a better reliever down the road, and or a few of these guys who you're kind of giving some tryouts to, like they're going to use one of those spots as a tryout spot with Max Lazar. Seth Johnson might get a shot at some point. And then
That's exciting.
Like, yeah, definitely. Like post deadline, there's a few guys like maybe Alex McFarland from Jersey Shore gets a shot and they transition him to a relief pitcher. But like there's definitely some guys there. So yeah, I'm curious. Like I think they could definitely get someone without dealing Abel even. Like if they want to hold on to Abel this year, they don't have to deal him this year. They could hold on to him next year, and then who knows? Next year, a spot in the rotation could open up if there's a serious injury, and then they need him. So I think they're in a good spot. I mean, that's a good problem to have with him.
Yeah, 100%. And you were talking about Seth Johnson a little bit. I mean, he has the stuff to be a good reliever. So it's going to be definitely like an interesting case because he's never done it, and he's still probably learning the ropes, pitching every day or every 2 days. I don't think they're putting him back to back yet, but they're going to have to at some point whenever they want to use him in the big leagues. So, yeah, I mean, he has a really good fastball, and I believe he has a really good slider as well. So,
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how he develops as a reliever. They tried him as a starter, and it was not working at all.
It was a little.
I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, we got him for basically nothing. So if you can make something out of him, even if he's a middle reliever, that's a win in that trade, in my opinion. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think with him, I know Gelb was talking about how he needs to throw more strikes before they call him up too. So if he can limit the walks and figure that out, he'll be in a good spot. So that could be exciting. I know Max Lazar just got called up today as Abel was optioned to. I mean, look, his velocity is apparently ticked up. I think he's throwing 95 now, whereas he was throwing 93 when he was up here last year. He got a little bit of a taste of the big leagues. So statistically, he pitched pretty well with us last year. Wasn't really in any big spots, but maybe he's a guy who they can try out in some spots. Obviously, they're going to have a game here and there when it can't be Romano, Strom, Kirkering. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I'll let you talk about him a little bit. But I did want to kind of transition us. We're talking about the bullpen now, like to the big news as well with Alvarado.
Yeah, I did want to kind of jump into something with the bullpen real quick. Sure. I mean, Jordan Romano, he's been really good. It's hard to deny what he's been doing, and if he keeps doing what he's doing, that makes your bullpen much better because he can step right into that spot that Alvarado was in, and he can take in the high leverage situations. He's done it before. He was an all-star when he was with Toronto. I mean, it's not like he doesn't know how to do it. He's done it for a couple years in a row, I believe. He was very good. So, yeah, it's just been an injury thing with him the last couple years, and it looks like he's finally right now, and he's been pretty electric the last 8 or 9 times they've used him. So it's obviously been against some lesser teams, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. They're all major league hitters. It's the 9th inning. It's high leverage, so not just anybody can step in and do that.
Yeah, yesterday was 1-0 too. One swing of the bat changes that game. So big credit to him. He didn't even have any trouble. Struck out the side. That's what you want to see from him, especially against a team like the Pirates with that lineup. Like he did his job. Like if you're saying it's because of the Pirates, the counterpoint is he was literally perfect in that inning pretty much. So since that Mets series, he's been way, way better. So I'm definitely excited to see kind of how he develops, just because it feels like mentally he's kind of back to, like, he's got his confidence back. I think that was the biggest thing for him. And because even like in some of the bad outings he had earlier this year, like he did run into some bad luck. And I think now he's just kind of riding the wave of his, like how his stuff should play. And he's having success because of it. The only like small nitpick you could say is like he doesn't really hold runners on first, which that could be an issue in the playoffs. But I'll take that over Craig Kimbrell having the bulk when there's a runner on second base. So I'll give first to second versus second to third. A little bit of a different situation there. Obviously, he's got a funky windup too, but it's worked out well. And I think, again, his confidence is back and his stuff is playing well right now. So, it's good we're kind of out of the woods with all the early season stuff that happened with him. And it's funny how a lot of people have been saying, like, well, thank goodness Jordan Romano is here in light of the Alvarado news too. Like it's a really encouraging sign given what just happened as well. And if you guys aren't aware, I mean, you guys are all aware at this point that Jose Alvarado is now suspended for 80 games and he's ineligible for the postseason because of the PED usage, which is a really unfortunate situation. That's really all you can say about it. But as far as like the looking through the lens for the team, that's a major loss. I mean, it's not like, I think some people are overreacting where it's like they lost their shot at a championship. We will see. There's a lot of season left to play. The Braves won a World Series without Acuna. It's definitely doable. But that being said, like you can't really understate how big of a presence he was for that bullpen this year, because there were so many games where we were up 4 or 5 runs that he had to come into because guys wouldn't do their job. And the number of times that has happened has been unbelievable. The middle relief guys is a whole different conversation, unfortunately. None of them have really done their job. But that being said, he was just nails for them this year. And just looked like he was back. It's just unfortunate to have that be the news. And when people, like my buddy Ian texted me, Alvy ... And I was like, oh, he probably got hurt. And then I see that. And I was honestly thinking, like, if he's hurt, it might be for the best, because they used him a lot early this year. Like, he was on the mound quite a bit. And then for that to be the news, just like that really, really sucks. So they're definitely in need of a reliever now, if they weren't already.
Yeah. I think they were in the market before, and I think they're at that top of the market now as far as, desperation goes. And I think one of the teams that they might try to pick from is going to be the Orioles, because I really like, Cano and Bautista, obviously. But Bautista's, I don't know how many years of control he has, but he's obviously very, very good, and they're going to want quite a bit for him. And the Orioles, man, they've been a disappointing team this year, but that's kind of aside from the
worse. Yeah.
But wanted to talk about somebody else in the bullpen real quick. Ryan Kerkering. I don't know what's going on with that guy, but he needs to, kind of get back to what he was, because he's been very unreliable to start the season, and he's going to be one of their 2 or 3 top arms. They need him desperately, and if he's going to be doing what he was doing yesterday, that's kind of like disaster waiting to happen against good teams, because those are the Pirates. So they kind of just gave it right back to him. But yeah, if he can't kind of figure it out, the Phillies are going to be in a lot more trouble than they already are.
Definitely. Like you said, he's been thrust into a much, much more important role now with Alvarado going down. Like going from, I mean, with what Romano has done and just how consistent Strom is, I would say those two guys were probably above him in the pecking order. I mean, Kerkering was still getting big spots and will continue to, and would have continued to if Alvarado was on the team still, not he's on the team, but you know what I mean? I mean, Kerkering right now, his chase rate is bottom 2 percentile and his walk rate is bottom 10 percentile. That's not going to play. So he's got to figure something out. I mean, I think he has to use that sinker a lot more than he is. I think he's only using it 13% of the time. I don't know how comfortable he is using it more often, but like that's like we've talked about on here before. The days of the 2-pitch relief pitcher are like they're not really, it's not the present anymore. So he needs to use that sinker more. And I don't know if it's just as simple as that. I'm sure there's more to it, but he's got to throw more strikes too. Like that's about as simple as you can make it. Use the sinker more and throw more strikes. And obviously there's more that they're working on behind the scenes than we know about, but just from the outside looking in, that's what I would say. And again, like you said, he's going to be thrust into a lot of really high leverage roles from now on. And he was fairly good in them last year until kind of the end of the year, and the playoffs obviously did not go super well. And that's the concern. Like, I know it sucks. Like everything is kind of about the playoffs, but what are we talking about if it's not? I mean, that's what you're building towards the whole year. So what is he going to be? Because I know a lot of people have said with Alvarado going down, and I do agree, you probably do need to get another lefty, but depending on what you have in Kerkering, you do need another righty to emerge from the tryout guys, or you might need to trade for someone to kind of push him a little bit, or if he doesn't really figure it out, to overtake him as well. So, like, his numbers are starting to look fine, but again, like you said, like, it hasn't been the prettiest getting there. And I don't know. The only other thing I would say on kind of the top three guys, we talked about Romano and Kirkring. I know Strom hasn't been super consistent this year, but he was an all-star last year, and he was very good the year before. He's been good in the playoffs for the most part. Obviously, last year, no one in the bullpen was good in the playoffs, so that is what it is. I just kind of trust Strom. I mean, I think he'll be fine as the year goes on. I don't really have any concerns about him. I know some people are concerned with him, but I just don't really get concerned about Strom.
Yeah, I mean, he's been very consistent since the Phillies got him a couple years ago. So it would take a lot for me to sound the alarm bell with him. He's been a rock out there, and he's been, he just goes after guys. Like, you gotta respect it, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
If he gives up a home run, it is what it is. He doesn't back down. Doesn't matter the situation. Doesn't matter who he's facing. So yeah, I don't worry about Strom at all. He comes in, I feel pretty good usually, unless he has a really bad run, which he really hasn't had since he became a Philly, I don't think. But
not too
anyway,
many.
Yeah, it's been very good what he's done out there the last couple of years, and he got rewarded last year with an All-Star nod. So
yeah, his bad games are very much isolated. Like, he really doesn't have many bad stretches, and that's rare for a relief pitcher. I mean, look at Hoffman right now. Like, everyone was talking about how tough it was to lose him, and obviously that's still a conversation. But I think the last month he's had 3 different outings where he's recorded 1 out and given up more than 3 runs, or 3 runs or more.
Yeah.
So it happens to the best of them. And with Strom, It just doesn't usually happen that often. So you definitely have to appreciate that. I did want to talk about the middle relief guys too, because we hinted at them. Jose Ruiz is coming back from injury, so he will be back in the bullpen. Have some thoughts on him. Joe Ross is still kind of there. He's kind of just been fine lately. Like, I don't know if he's on the team at the end of the year. He's just in a weird spot again, because Walker's the swingman. Like, he's already here, and Joe Ross was kind of supposed to be that. And it's like, he just has a weird role at this point. I don't know what the need is for him. They also paid him a major league contract for $4 million though. So they're going to get their innings out of him that they can. And then Carlos Hernandez, I wouldn't even put him in the middle relief category. I mean, he's like, that's kind of just the when is he going to get DFA category. Like, no offense to him. Banks has been mostly fine. Like you said, I wouldn't use him in high leverage. He's fine def. And then Lazar, like we talked about him, he'll come up. But I'm just curious kind of your thoughts on those guys. Like, it's been rough with the middle relief pitchers this year.
Yeah, it feels like this is kind of like the worst group we've had in the last few years, to where, like, I just don't trust any of them at all in any kind of leverage. I mean, Tanner Banks probably the most, and I still don't want him out there facing any kind of good lineup or competent hitter, because he's just, I don't know, he just doesn't throw hard. He doesn't have like stuff that pops off the screen. He's more just like, pitch it in there and hope they make contact and put it on the ground, or it's a weak pop up or something. I don't know. Doesn't.
His strikeout rate is weirdly high, but I don't believe it, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just because he faces a lot of bad teams and bad in like weird situations or what, but
lefties.
Yeah, I don't trust it at all. Not one bit. So I don't know. I guess I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be.
Sure. Yeah. And like, hopefully Jose Ruiz, like, he comes back strong off the injury. I'm not sure. He just did not look good to start this year, to say the least.
I can't say I'm hopeful.
No. And it's a shame, because he was pretty solid in that role last year. Every time you saw him in a high leverage spot, you knew it was going to get dicey, but that wasn't his role. So, but I don't know. I haven't trusted him this year. Didn't trust him a ton last year. I don't know. I feel like with him, Joe Ross, and Carlos Hernandez, like, 2 of those 3 guys are probably not going to be here at some point. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe a couple of them stick around. I think I say 2 because I think, again, Carlos Hernandez, it's just a matter of time. Like, I don't think he's going to be here very long. I'm surprised he is still here, to be honest. I really am, but he is. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a shame. He's had some fun outings, but he's also had the worst outings of any of our bullpen pitchers too.
Yeah,
outside of the Romanos inning.
I mean, I don't trust him one bit, but the stuff is evident. Like if they can make something, if they can make something of him, because it's very good stuff. You know, he throws 100 pretty consistently, has a good breaking ball, but he just can't locate it at all. It's like Alvarado when we first got him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they'll make something of him if they like DFA him and he makes it through waivers and makes it to minor leagues. They could probably figure something out at that point. But it just doesn't feel like the major leagues is a place for him to be trying to figure it out.
Not necessarily. No. If we could option him, that would be ideal. But obviously, you know, there's with contract and stuff, there's a reason we can't option him. We pick him up off of waivers, obviously. But I know it's early. As far as like bullpen help goes, Sir Philly, I mean, there's a number of guys like Drew kind of talked about them. It's hard to feel out the market right now. I know Keegan Aiken's kind of an interesting lefty from the Orioles. Garrett Clevenger, I know, has been mentioned by a few people, which would be funny since we got him in the Jeremy Hellickson trade and then flipped him for Alvarado. That would be interesting. I wrote down a few of them earlier today. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can pull them up at this point, but like, I don't know if you had any other guys other than like, I like Cano and Bautista too.
Yeah. I think Cano is probably the biggest one because he's kind of like their setup guy versus, you know, he would be probably slotting in between Strom and Romano maybe, or maybe behind Strom. I don't know. He's going to be in the back end if you get him, but he might cost you quite a bit. I don't know what his years of control or anything looks like. I haven't really done a deep dive on anybody yet, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bautista is much better, but he's coming off an injury, which is risky. And, you know, the Orioles are going to want a lot for him because when he was healthy, he was the best closer in baseball.
Yeah, definitely. I know a couple of guys. I'll give you a couple of guys like like Bautista would be awesome. I think that's like the best like non. I don't know why Mason Miller's still getting mentioned by people on Twitter, but
he looks like a disaster, man. I don't know. Sometimes
he's not pitching well, and he's also not getting traded either. So
yeah. And if you do trade for him, it's going to be, you know, do you want to give up Andrew Painter for a reliever?
Right.
No thanks.
Exactly. Anyway, but I feel
I would love if we go out to Oakland or wherever they're playing now. I'd love if we play the Athletics and we just light up Mason Miller so people shut up about it. Like I just don't want to hear about it anymore. I mean, I know he throws 102, cool, but like he's walking in runners in the extra innings. Like, can we get real?
And I just thought it was just comical last year when he was like, even when he was pitching at an elite level too, which he probably will return to that at some point. It's like, again, do you really think this is something realistic? The guy is pre-arbitration and he's got the best stuff in all of baseball, and he's also like pitching to some of the best numbers in all of baseball. Anyway, that being said, Bautista is like one of the best non-Helsley options because Helsley's probably going to be the guy on the, like, he might be one of the best players, period, that's available for trade. And the Cardinals are playing well too. So like, it's not a guarantee he gets dealt either. And I don't think the Cardinals would be scared to give him an extension either. Like, they're a weird organization. So I don't think they're going to be thinking, hey, like, we have to go out and deal this guy. But I'll give you a couple guys that I was thinking of. I've talked about Andrew Kittredge in our group chat for a while. He's a guy who's hurt. I don't know if he's back right now or not, but he was very good with St. Louis last year. Mr. High Sox, obviously, I think he'd be a fun piece. Like, he doesn't really, his stuff isn't going to jump off the screen, but I think that's kind of a nice change of pace from the rest of the guys we have. And I don't know, I think he's just a consistent option in the later innings. Emilio Pagan is an interesting guy from the Reds who I think is a free agent after this year. Yimi Garcia was a guy I liked last year. He did not do well when he went to Seattle, but he's been good again with Toronto. So I don't really know, like, it's risky, but he's a guy you can keep an eye on. I mentioned Keegan Aiken from the Orioles. Like, those are guys right now. There's not a ton of names. Like, it's just hard because there's not a ton of sellers right now. There probably won't be a ton of sellers either, but right now is a tough time to feel that out because of where we're at in the season. Yeah.
And especially like the sellers, like, the last couple of years, the bad teams like the White Sox and whoever else, like, you know, the group, the Pirates, teams like that,
group, the Rockies.
Yeah. They don't have good players. Like, the Rockies are a total disaster. Speaking of that, the Phillies need to sweep this series. Like,
yes,
anything less than a sweep is a major letdown. The Rockies have 8 wins.
Yeah.
8. Like, that's crazy.
Don't let them get to double digits this week.
Yeah, I mean, if we split this series or even lose this series, I might go on strike.
Yeah. No Drew on the podcast for a little bit. He's not doing any podcasts until they beat a bad team.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah, and I think like they play 7 games against the Athletics and the Rockies. If you win anything less than 6 of those games, I feel like it's a disappointment because those teams are terrible.
Yeah, the Rockies are embarrassing. And it is really funny how the Rockies, the Orioles, and the Pirates have fired their managers thinking like that's going to change anything. Like everyone knows the issues are deeper than that right now. Especially like if you're an Orioles fan, like goodness gracious. I mean, I know we complain about the Phillies, but we're still one of the top 4 teams in the NL right now. The Orioles, like everything is falling apart there right now. They can't develop any pitchers, yet they have some like interesting pitchers to trade. But at the same time, like that's a major letdown. This team made the playoffs the last 2 seasons and was one of the young teams on the come up, and it's looking pretty awful right now. So
they do have Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto though.
Yeah,
thanks
exactly. And they don't have Seth Johnson and Moises Chasez, who both were. I mean, obviously Seth Johnson could be in the bullpen, and Moises Chasez was a good prospect for us to start the year before the injury. So I'd rather have that than Gregory Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez right now, though. And those guys could get traded again this deadline. Not to us, hopefully, but
man, they're a disaster, the Orioles. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody knew their starting pitching wasn't going to be good, but I don't think anybody expected it to be quite this bad. And then they DFA Kyle Gibson. Like, what? How's that going to help your situation? I don't understand. Like, you already don't have anybody to fill the shoes, and now you're going to get rid of one of the guys that's going to eat innings for your team. Hey, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, and their opening day starter, who I love, Zach Eflin. He gave up, I think, 4 home runs the other day. So you hate to see that. Yeah, he's had so many injury problems. Even if he was pitching good, it's like, when's he going to get hurt? When's that knee issue going to flare up again? Because it happens every year. It's like inevitable. So I think I remember when he was with us, like when he first made his debut. His first season, I think he always had he had mentioned he had back issues since he was like in middle school, or maybe since he was like 14 years old. And like, that's all connected to like your knee and your back and everything. It's like you said, it's just, sometimes with him, it's just a matter of time. He's carved out a really good MLB career for himself. So credit to him, but
the
Orioles have a lot of issues. So I'm glad. I'm really glad we're not them right now.
But speaking of teams that have a lot of issues, the Rays, I don't know if they have any good relievers, but I mean, I think what's their closer's name? I forget. Pete Fairbanks, right?
Yes, Fairbanks would be a really interesting option. I just wanted to acknowledge Chris's comment real quick too. I don't think we're getting in the locker room anytime soon, but that would be exciting. Maybe the Jersey Shore Blue Claws locker room. Once Arun Escobar gets up there, maybe I'll try to get me and Drew some media passes and interview him, but we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But
anyway, continue. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say what the Phillies are going to do with the deadline, but it's so early to look forward to that at this point. So I think anybody that's hoping to make a trade in the next 2 days should maybe cool the jets a little bit, because I don't foresee that happening, because you think the prices are going to be high then, like at the deadline. Imagine what they're going to be now whenever you have another 2 months of control over the guy. So I don't know. It's going to be like a waiting game for the next month and a half or so, and I don't know. It is what it is at this point. They're going to deal with what they have right now, and they're going to still win games. Their offense is good enough that it's going to win them a lot of games. So is their starting pitching. So I know the bullpen sucks right now. The situation sucks, I should say. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, we mentioned you mentioned Fairbanks, who I really like him. His advanced numbers aren't really what they were like 2 years ago, but maybe Cotham can get them closer to that. And even if they're not, he's still having success right now. So he's been one of their better relief pitchers for the past few years, obviously. And I think he's coming up on his contract at some point soon. I think maybe he has this year and next year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he has 2, but I think he has just either this year or next year or just this year. But that being said, he's an option. I know Clevenger's been like a pretty solid reliever for the Rays. I think he's been better this year from what I've heard. That's an option. And then this isn't an option, but they have Mason Montgomery. I think he's a like 24, 25-year-old lefty. His numbers aren't great, but if you go on to Savant, you'll definitely like what you see there. So, but he's also pre-arbitration. So I think the Rays are probably going to decide to stick with him and let him work it out. But yeah. Just to get a few more of these comments. Koyo, I think it's Ayagi. I don't know how to say his last name, but I think he was pitching well in AAA, but I don't think they really have. It doesn't sound like there's really any belief that he could get a shot in the big leagues at this year at some point. But maybe he will. I don't know. I don't really foresee it happening. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about that situation, to be honest with you. Like, he struggled very, very badly in spring training, so I think that kind of like soured their mouths. Like, they're not going to want him up here anytime soon. They're going to want to work with him for a while and try to develop him a little bit.
And I'd have to check this for sure, but Dylan, welcome in, Dylan. He is saying he has more walks than innings pitched in the minors, so that's not something. That's not something you want to see.
Yeah, you think Carlos Hernandez is bad, huh? Why don't you try that out?
Yeah.
And that's in AAA, you know.
Yeah, at least Carlos Hernandez just does generally get it in the strike zone.
Yeah,
it generally goes into the stands, but it's in the strike zone, so credit to him. And I mean, this question, Nerio, welcome in all the way from Italy. I know you commented earlier, so I saw your comment just 2 seconds ago, and didn't acknowledge it. But I kind of talked about Ross a little bit, like weird situation. I think Gelb mentioned they weren't sure if they were getting Luzardo, and then they got him, and then they kind of had an agreement with Ross. So I'd have to check if that's exactly what Gelb said. But point being, like I think it was just not a situation they foresaw happening, and obviously, like Walker has ended up sticking around, which I think a lot of people thought he'd eventually be. I think a lot of people thought he'd be gone by now too, but he's doing his job. So, and then Hernandez was like, they had an extra spot. They wanted to jump the market to, or they got him on waivers. So it was one of those things where they just kind of had the scouting department take a shot on him.
Yeah. I think they traded cash for him to jump the line and get him, but he was basically free. Like it is what it is. He doesn't really cost them any money. I think he's pretty arb as well. So it is what it is. I mean, speaking of Ross being signed because they didn't know if they were going to get Luzardo, Jesus Luzardo has been a godsend. That guy is unreal. He's been our best starting pitcher, and Wheeler obviously has been very good lately. But Wheeler had a couple rough starts at the beginning of the season, and his ERA is kind of inflated still. But yeah, Luzardo, what do you say? He's been outstanding. He doesn't walk guys. He strikes a ton of guys out, goes deep into games. He's in full command of the game whenever he's out there right now.
He's been incredible, man. I mean, you have, like we've talked about before, and just to confirm this too, yes, he has 12 walks to 11 and a third innings pitched. So anyway, we'll put that to rest. But Luzardo's been incredible this year, man. I mean, we've talked about it before. You have 3 aces in this rotation with him, Sanchez, and Wheeler. You're going to add a fourth with Painter. And then if there is room for Abel at some point, goodness gracious, I mean, you're in incredible shape. So Luzardo getting added into this mix, man, and getting him for cheaper than we would have gotten Garrett Crochet, I think has been huge. And hopefully they do work out an extension with Luzardo at some point. I think it's evident they need to do that. I mean, I know health is in the back of their minds, but he's been incredible. And I think he's only going to get better. The guy's 27 years old and he's pitching like this. That's special stuff, man. Special stuff. Yeah. So to have him in this rotation has just, I think you can see it's already elevated them a ton. And I think it's going to be one of those things where you look back at the end of the year at their win total and be like, it probably rose because of what Luzardo did this year. Like they could get to 100 wins probably because of that rotation alone. You can win games because of that rotation alone every single night.
Yeah. And they have incredible depth. So, if somebody were to get injured, obviously they have Abel, who's probably going to be the first guy up at this point. But Painter's coming right now. Like he's almost ready. He's going to be ready within the next, month and a half or so. And that's exciting. I don't really. It makes me kind of like giddy thinking about Painter being in this rotation because he's phenomenal. You think Abel was good? Painter's twice as good. So it's crazy to think about.
Did you get to watch any like clips or anything from Abel's first couple starts?
I did not.
Okay. I mean, I didn't see a ton either. I know everyone was raving about it though. Like,
Yeah.
he's looked really good, and he's in AAA obviously right now. I want to try to get up to Lehigh before he's out of there, honestly, just to see him.
Did you mean
cheaper.
Painter?
Yes, Painter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did get to watch some of his stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I saw some of it, but not a ton.
Yeah, he's been electric. I mean, the one I watched the whole outing actually. He walked the bases loaded in the last inning, and he got out of it somehow. But before that, he was in full command. Like the other team had no idea what to do, and it was special. It took him hurting himself to get into that situation. It's not like they were getting hits off of him. So
yeah, he's looked really good so far. I mean, I didn't watch really any of his last start, but I know he did fairly well. Obviously faced a little adversity in his last start, but you want to see that before he comes up to the big leagues, to see him work through some problems that he has on the mound. And I think it really, I think Stubbs didn't catch him hhis last start, which was a little weird, but like having Stubbs there, I think is really helpful for him. Because even if Stubbs isn't catching him, he's helping Peyton Henry with the game plan. And I just think like that is so valuable because we can talk about, I don't want to spend much time talking about the backup catcher situation. I personally don't care too much about it. I know the fan base does. It is certainly an interesting conversation now. Marchand had 3 base running mistakes in that most recent start. Been some concerning stuff there with him. He caught Abel well yesterday, so that was good to see. That being said, obviously, Stubbs is probably the better catcher right now. That being said, I think it's so valuable to have him down there with Painter. And just that Stubbs is he's a team guy. He's not down there complaining or anything. He's not saying I should be up here. He has just been such a great team player, and even cracking jokes when they came down to see Painter. Thanks for coming to see me play. That you love to see that. He's still the same guy. So I think it's really valuable to have him down there right now.
Yeah, I mean he knows exactly how the major league team operates, so he can kind of give the guys an idea of that before they come up, or while they're still developing. Like Abel, I'm sure he asks him a ton of questions while he's down there, and I'm sure Painter is as well because he's obviously never experienced the major leagues. So it's a lot more important to have people down there that can help get your young guys ready whenever they're ready to come up. Whenever Aiden Miller's down there, in AAA, that is, I'm sure they're going to want to have guys around him that, have been there and done that and, can kind of guide him. So it's definitely important to have people like Stubbs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I did want to get to this comment too. Because I've had the thought of what could you get if you move Ranger Suarez? He's on a contract year right now. I just think, he's a rental. So I think it's hard to, especially let's say you're trying to trade him to a seller. That's just not going to work. I think Ranger is a younger guy, but they're not going to convince themselves we'll just extend him. Ranger's going to be one of the top 10 players probably on the market for free agency this offseason. He's set to make a lot of money. I just don't think he's going to be, I don't think they can move him for a reliever necessarily. And you're going to have to find a team who's kind of in the mix where you can make a 1-to-1 major league trade. And I don't know who that is right now.
Yeah, the Orioles actually might be a good candidate for that because they're going to want to pay somebody, and Ranger might be that guy. They're going to want to, pay a starting pitcher, obviously, because their rotation's been probably one of the worst in baseball, if not the worst. It can't be worse than the Rockies. I don't know if you've seen their ERAs that we have coming up here, but it's bad. Anyway, yeah, you could probably trade Ranger and a prospect for, a guy like Cano or Bautista maybe, because the Orioles are going to want starting pitching and they're going to want to be competitive next year. And obviously this year it's kind of out the window at this point. So maybe Ranger has some value for a team like that where they hope to compete next year and they have, people they want to give up this year.
Yeah, and I think my only thing with that is I think if they were a little more competitive where they hadn't spiraled out of control, it'd make even more sense for them because they'd be competing and they'd be looking for an ace or something like that. But they were also the team I thought of too. Yeah, I don't know. He's not going to have the same value that some of your other guys would have just because of that contract year. And if you can find a team that's looking to compete, it's just you're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack right now. A lot of the teams are especially in May, you just don't know where teams are going to fall. And that trade we made for Austin Hayes with Sir Anthony last year, that was a very rare trade where you just trade major league players. And didn't really work out for either team, but he's been doing really well in Cincinnati actually. So credit to him. But yeah, like that's not like something that happens often.
Yeah, I don't really. Most of the teams that are going to be selling players are not going to want a rental, like you said. So it's almost impossible to find a trade like that. And like you said, it's very rare. So I don't know. I think you're better off just keeping Ranger because he's a very good postseason player. And
Sure.
putting him in the bullpen, like Dylan's saying, that's kind of unrealistic because he's in a contract year and his agent is Scott Boras. So if you're going to put him in the bullpen, they're going to request a trade, I'd imagine.
And I would imagine that sours some relationships with Scott Boras moving forward. So I think it's something that will probably be in play in September at the earliest and probably in October.
Yeah, because he's not going to start a postseason game. Like there's too many horses in the stable, you know. Like you're going to have Painter being the fourth pitcher probably out of the rotation,
sure.
And maybe even fifth. I don't know how Nola's going to pitch down the stretch, but obviously Painter's never been there and never done that, so they might want to be careful with him in the playoffs. I don't really know what his role is going to be, but you know, Sanchez, Luzardo, and Wheeler, they're bona fide top three, guaranteed. You know, you trust them with everything you have. So I don't know. It's going to be tough for Ranger to crack the rotation in the playoffs, and the bullpen is obviously the only option at that point. Then, and he has experience there, so kind of just makes sense.
I wanted to talk about Nola too because he got hurt, and Dylan mentioned him as well. He's obviously in a weird spot with that right now because again it's May and we're talking about October rotation, but these are the questions we're going to have throughout the year. So like you just said, like I'm on the same page with you. I'm not disagreeing. Like those are your three guys at the front. It's Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez right now. If you started the playoffs today, and it's most likely not going to change either.
Yeah,
so, like those are your three guys. Suarez would probably be the next guy in line. Like if they want to break up, like if they get to a longer series or like they kind of want to break things up a little bit or like someone goes down or they're trying to manage innings or whatever it is, like he'd probably be the next guy in line. And then there's Nola. Like we haven't even mentioned Nola at all. He's still got 5 years left on his contract. I think my thing with him is like, I think he's going to be fine in the regular season. Like I have no concerns about him once he comes back from the IL and it's the summer and it's warm out. Like I'm just not concerned about him for them, but like, I don't know what his role is in October, given the situation right now. Like he doesn't have
no idea.
Yeah. But he's also they have also trusted him in multiple postseason starts. So like, I don't know what they're going to do. Cause obviously you and me wouldn't put him out there, but I don't know.
It's a bizarre situation to have such a good rotation that a guy on a gigantic contract is not going to pitch in the postseason for you potentially.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. It's a totally different situation than what Taiwan was a couple years ago when he didn't pitch in the playoffs. Like, it's not because Nola's just completely terrible. It's just that they have so many good starting pitchers and like guys that are, you know, hitting their stride. And I don't know. It's a very, very interesting situation, and I'm curious to see how they go about solving it because I don't know what the right answer is. I really don't.
Yeah, I really am curious too. I mean, you have to figure at some point, like with injuries or whatever happen. Like, I hope that doesn't happen, but like, I'd figure at some point some of it will sort itself out with that. But like, even with an injury, I wouldn't start Nola in a playoff game right now.
Yeah,
like, obviously, I'd start him over Walker, but like that's not who he's competing with for like a playoff start. So, yeah, I don't know, and I'm interested to see what happens with Walker too, because like he's really good rotation depth to have. I'm also curious if like there's a team out there that could use him that we could get like a back end bullpen piece for, because they don't really need him, but he's also been a good piece for them this year. Like he's in his role, like he's been great, and like I won't be surprised. Like obviously he's been good in the bullpen. If he goes back in the rotation, like does fine for 3, 4, 5 innings, like that won't surprise me either. It's just it's good to have a veteran guy like that, but and it's nice. Like the more he plays with the team, the less we have to worry about paying off that contract in a trade, and the less amount of contract there is to pay off eventually too. So,
is there one more year on that after this season?
Yes, yeah. So we're nearing the end.
Yeah.
We're over the halfway point.
The first 2 years were a total disaster, and this year, I mean, the first year he was okay. I can't.
He was okay the first year.
Yeah, but last year that was about as bad as it can possibly get, and I don't know. It's a completely different situation now than it was, in the offseason because he's been valuable. He hasn't been a total liability every time he goes out there, and it's a sight for sore eyes, that's for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. The only thing I would say, I don't have like more than 5 minutes to say on the lineup because I think at this point, like that just is what it is. Like there's not really a ton to talk about there. The bats are going to have to come through. The only spot they could really add someone is center field unless they want to upgrade from Kepler, and center field is a hard spot to find players at.
Yeah, Kepler's been terrible the last couple of weeks, by the way. Like if he's not going to be better, he's going to have to go. It's pretty simple. He had that home run stretch like where he was in I think it was the Nationals and the Diamondbacks. He was hitting home runs, and since then, pretty much nothing. So I don't know. I don't know how you're feeling about him or even JT. JT's been terrible too. So those are two of your more important players because they're hitting right in the middle of the lineup.
Right. I'll say first off, I think Marsh and Bohm have been better, which is nice to see.
So Marsh coming back from the injury has been much better.
Yeah. So he's been a lot better. So definitely happy for those guys. The rest of the lineup,
his defense. Marsh's defense has kind of been sucky, but
there's a lot of plays where you're like, tough play, but Rojas would have gotten that, which it's tough. Like you wish you could have Rojas in the field and then Marsh DHs for him. Like,
yeah. But Rojas has shown some promise though at the plate lately. I mean, he had one really bad game, I think, where he had 4 strikeouts. But aside from that, Rojas has done his job when he's been out there, and feels like recently it's been pretty few and far between. He hasn't played that much, so
he worked a really good walk on Friday night. That was
he did.
Like he's definitely been better this year. Like I'm not a big Rojas believer. He's been better this year for sure, though.
Yeah, like if you can get what you're getting out of him and get what you're getting out of Marsh right now, you don't need to upgrade that center field spot because they're both elite defenders. Or Marsh was an elite defender. I don't know what's going on. He couldn't catch anything recently, it feels like. But I don't know. It is what it is. Like the center field position, it doesn't feel like they can upgrade it. They've tried the last handful of years, I'm sure, and there's nothing on the market. All the bad teams have terrible players, and there's nothing you can really do. Like Luis Robert. He's been pretty terrible, I think, to begin this year. So
he's been awful. Awful. Yeah.
I don't know if he's just done like washed up or what, but
which is such an early age to be washed up at too. But he's been rough.
Yeah.
I did see. I forget who wrote the article. I don't think the Blue Jays are looking to deal Dalton Varsho, but like he's a guy he's like a 700 OPS guy. He hits like 20 doubles, 20 home runs every year, steals some bags, and he's one of the. I think he won the Gold Glove last year. So like defensively, he's there.
He was a catcher. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know.
That's
catcher/outfielder, man. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I love Dalton Varsho. He's definitely one of my guys for sure. But like, it seems like you have taken a liking to him too. But he's I don't know what they'd have to give up for him. He has one less year of control than Marsh, so he'd be here rest of this year and then all next year. I don't even know if the Blue Jays are looking to deal him, but like that would be exciting. Maybe you get him and then get Hoffman back too for the next 2 years. But I don't know. Like that's it. Like that's the only maybe option I see as some like the other guy is Mullins, who like I would be fine with taking a year of Mullins. Honestly, he's not been that great, but like you get rid of Marsh and then like you get him as a rental for the rest of the year. Like that's fine. I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't really know like what you wouldn't have to give up a ton for him, but like, and obviously it's not like 1-to-1. You're just giving up Marsh for him, but at that point, it's like you kind of just ride it out with Marsh the next couple of years. I don't know. I don't really know what they could do there. It's just not a position you can upgrade. But go back to what you said on Kepler too. Like I think Wes Wilson's been a really good platoon for him.
Yeah.
I also think Wes Wilson has shown in the past he can hit righties. Last year he was hitting righties, but I think it was last year he was hitting righties better than he was lefties in minor leagues. He hit for the cycle at one point. Like I don't think the short stints that Weston Wilson has had is like an anomaly. I do think. My personal opinion is he could be an everyday player with the opportunity. Now, I like Kepler. I do think he could figure it out. He gives you good at-bats for the most part. He hasn't been good lately, though. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Weston Wilson play a little bit more. They haven't really given him the opportunity, and I don't think they will. But I'm glad he's platooning at the least.
He's playing tonight, so I guess we'll see. But one thing I just got to say this. Why is Edmundo Sosa starting at second base? I do not understand. Like, Bryson Stott has been fine in the leadoff spot. It doesn't matter who he's faced. Like, I know he's not like, lighting the world on fire, but he's setting the table perfectly for these guys at the top of the lineup. And I don't get it. Like, I don't care. Kyle Freeland has a 6 ERA. Like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that deep, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Edmundo Sosa's fine. Like, it's not.
He's a good player. It's not about him.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather see him in left field and put Weston Wilson on the bench. Like, I don't know. I hate it. I hate that they put Stott on the bench against lefties. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because he's the top of the order when he's playing, and then he's not playing at all against lefties. So I am also sick of it. And again, like you said, it's not an Edmundo Sosa problem. Like, he's a good player. He's a great utility player.
Yeah.
We've talked about him
100%.
playing here. But like, I don't know why you can't just move Stott down in the order and just play. Like, we've seen he's had like
leave him at the top.
Right. I know this year he hasn't hit well against lefties, but like in the past couple of years, like he has had some solid at bats. Like, he's had fine numbers versus them. Like, he's a guy, like, if you want to have a short leash with Marsh against lefties, whatever. Like, I'm not going to complain about that because he's had terrible at bats versus them. Stott, I just think he's a professional hitter. You get good at bats out of him. Like, I would like to see him get some run. Like Anthony, when we had Anthony on, like he said, you can't run 3 platoons the rest of the year. They're doing that right now because Rojas is playing against the lefties. So you can see the bottom of the order. All 3 guys are platoons.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Yeah. Like the Marsh and Rojas thing, like, that is what it is. Like, they are a platoon at this point, I feel like. And, you have to put Rojas in there. Like, you can't just let him sit on the bench for 2 weeks at a time. So, like, this is fine. But, like, Weston Wilson in left field, you got to let your bench guys play. That is what it is. But I don't know where you can put Edmundo Sosa to, make it. I don't know. But I don't want to see Stott sitting on the bench because, like, it isn't like Kyle Freeland's going to go out there and strike out the side every inning, like, just because you have a lefty in there against him. Like, he only has 35 strikeouts and he's 0-6. Like, he's obviously not missed time. Like, he has 35 strikeouts and, a 6 ERA. So it's not like he's really good or anything. I just
his ERA has been above 5 for the last 3 seasons now.
And like Stott, he's played worse against lefties this year, but wouldn't you if you never got an opportunity? Like, every time there's a lefty on the mound, it feels like they just put him on the bench. Like, I can't understand it.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of it at this point too, because like I think Stott long term is an everyday player for sure. Like, he to me is a guy they should extend. Especially, I don't think an extension for him is going to be a ton. Like, they're really not going to have to pay a lot for the value you get from him.
No,
he's been their leadoff hitter versus righties. He could at least be a guy in the bottom of the order versus lefties. He plays good defense. He's stealing a lot of bases this year too. Like, he's done everything they've asked him to do.
I would call him a defense first player. Like,
sure.
Definitely. I mean, his bat is fine. Like, there's absolutely no problems with it. Like, he does what he needs to do. He hits an occasional, 500-foot bomb like he has been.
Yeah. Hey, he's definitely been hitting for some power this year, which is good to see.
Yeah, that arm definitely bothered him last year because he is a completely different player than he was at this time last year. So it's nice. It's refreshing. But yeah, like you said, a contract extension for him is not going to cost you, an arm and a leg. And I don't know, is he a Boris client?
It's a great question. I mean,
I know Bohm is.
Probably every 3 out of 4 players is, but
yeah, I know Bohm is for sure. But Bohm's value is just going down in my opinion. He hasn't been that good, and he's obviously been much better lately, which is good to see. But they're not going to keep Bohm because Aiden Miller is right on the doorstep of being in the major leagues, and they need somewhere to put him, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I'd much rather, if I have to give up one of those guys, I'd rather keep Stott around for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to mention the lineup real briefly at the end here, since we talked a lot of pitching to start. But anything else you wanted to touch on from the Phillies this past week or coming into tonight?
I think that's pretty much it. Go win 6 out of these 7 games against these terrible teams and take first place back and don't give it up the rest of the year. We're in the 1 game behind the Mets, so no reason they shouldn't be in first place after this week.
Definitely. And they're actually a half game behind the Mets now too. So after they lost last night. So yeah, exactly. So they're definitely, they made up ground for sure. Like a lot of positive things have happened since that Met series. It's definitely encouraging what's happened as of late. But that's all I got.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Drew, anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, I mean, everybody enjoy staying up till midnight every night for the next week to watch the games. If you're going to do that, it sucks, but I'm going to power through it. I think I kind of enjoy the late night games sometimes. It's like,
sure,
you don't got to come straight home from work and watch the game. So It's nice.
Yes.
But yeah, everybody enjoy that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I'm going to get a little run in here before this game. So hopefully, hopefully that gives me some energy. Maybe it'll make me more tired. I don't know, but yeah, it should be a fun one. I like you. I kind of like staying up for the late night games. They're a good time, and hopefully they take care of business in the first like 4 or 5 innings, and then we can all go to bed. But but yeah, anyway. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.